I'm going to give you a reaction and breakdown of a new David Blaine interview clip where he talks almost the entire time about his fear of public speaking and how he got over it. If you don't know him, David Blaine is an incredible magician, and that's his claim to fame. But there's nothing magical about how he coped with his speaking anxiety. The educational message of this breakdown is that celebrity speakers and high-level leaders are just like you. I'm guessing you'll relate to a lot of what David Blaine says.
You don't necessarily like these sorts of interviews, though, right?
My strength, I feel like, is more based on doing magic as opposed to talking, you know. So I rarely like to go out there and talk too much, but I did a TED Talk, which was very difficult, jumping into the fire pit, and I did it without magic, just speaking, and that was kind of the first time that I did a talk where I had no magic to stand behind.
And how did you feel about that?
It was very hard, and I was very awkward and stuttery, but it was nice to work on a talk, so it was interesting.
As a magician, I try to show things to people that seem impossible, and I think magic, whether I'm holding my breath or shuffling a deck of cards, is pretty simple. It's practice, it's training, and it's practice, it's training, and experimenting, while pushing through the pain to be the best that I can be, and that's what magic is to me, so thank you.
First, it's clear that David Blaine prefers the thing he's best at, magic, rather than speaking. Many of us have a preferred area of competence or skill or message, and that often comes from our education, our background, our experience, in this case, magic. And we use public speaking as that next step, that powerful way to communicate what we know. So maybe just like you, public speaking was an add-on to David Blaine's career. It wasn't the main point.
Towards the end of it, you got a little emotional.
Because everybody thinks when I do magic that relates to the endurance. So everybody always thinks that I'm cheating or it's a trick or something like that. So when I finally put it all together as one coherent thought and worked on it diligently for a long time, most of the people that are close to me, they like that talk because they feel it's very honest. By the way, Richard Werman was the one that asked me to do that, and he had asked me to do that for 17 years.
Really?
And then I worked day and night forever on that talk.
Did you?
Months, yeah, day and night. I didn't even watch one thing during that conference because I was just studying all the notes of what I needed to remember, and then I converted it to bullet points.
Second, celebrities like David Blaine and others get quite nervous about speaking. Fame, status, money, that does nothing for you when it comes to public speaking anxiety. He avoided this TED Talk for 17 years. You think you're nervous. 17 years is professional level avoidance. But the key thing I want to focus on in this segment is how much he prepared. He says he worked on that 20-minute presentation for months, day and night. I'm guessing he practiced 100 times if you counted every single time he talked through it in his house, in his car, pretended to be on a practice stage. And it's the same for most celebrity-level speakers and leaders. The rumor is that the late Steve Jobs practiced his presentation, where he introduced the iPhone 1 over 100 times. Some people claim he practiced 200 times. Arnold Schwarzenegger practiced his first speech as the new governor of California over 70 times. My recommendation is always to practice a minimum of 10 times for an ordinary presentation. But most successful speakers I know practice a lot more than that for a big speech.
What are the nerves going into something like that, given that it's out of your comfort zone?
Well, that's another thing that's very interesting. So when I was trying to figure out how to do this, I started reading all of the books on public speaking. And the first thing that was a really interesting approach, by the way, was learning why we're afraid to public speak. I'm not afraid to go on a white sharks in the ocean with no cage on, but public speaking, I was very uncomfortable, very nervous to do it.
Still?
No. I put myself in the boiling pit. But once you understand the psychology of why we're afraid to public speak, it becomes really interesting. So do you know
No.
What would be your first thought?
I mean, you don't want to mess up. All eyes are on you doing something
But what's the problem with all eyes on you?
Self-conscious, uncomfortable.
The reason that we're so uncomfortable public speaking is because when all eyes are on you, if you go back a million years, And you think about every eye on you, it's somebody that's a predator or wants to hunt you. So having all the eyes on you while you're on an open plateau and you're elevated, you're in a place of extreme danger if you go back. So the evolution of the brain hadn't changed that much. So we still, even though we're now not in a dangerous place to be on a stage, we're wired to have that fear of being hunted or being chased by a predator. Once I started to process that, then I started to accept it. And then once you accept it, then the fear starts to change. And then after that talk, I went with Washington Speakers Bureau and I had them just book me to do talks. And I started doing, 10,000 people, and I would go up on stage and I would not even prepare. I would just go up and I would just wing it. And most of the time it was terrible because it would hit like 1 in 10 or so. Yeah. But it really started to make me comfortable with the process.
You'll notice here, he says he's not anxious anymore. So how did that happen? He said he put himself in the boiling pit. Once you do a big presentation like that and push through it, you'll notice that the world doesn't end just because you were nervous. Public speaking gets easier, and your nerves will be much easier to manage once you put yourself out there. The more you do it, the easier it is to manage those emotions. Now, here is where I disagree with what Blaine says. He says our anxiety is about a deeper fear of being hunted. Now, I've never seen any evidence that connects public speaking fear to a fear of being hunted in our past. That's a belief he has, not a verifiable fact. Virtually all research I've read shows that our anxiety is related to fear of failure, embarrassment, and essentially the potential for imagined downsides of performing in front of lots of eyes that we believe are evaluating us. So I don't buy his diagnosis, but who cares? There's a bigger lesson. Blaine found a mindset that helped him get over that fear. Our anxieties are driven by mindsets and thoughts, and if we can change our mindset, we can change our emotions. For example, the mindset that helps me feel much less nervous about speaking is that I say to myself, this is just practice. No matter how big the presentation, even when I'm getting paid by a high-profile client, I still say to myself as I'm getting ready, it's just practice, it's just practice. That mindset instantly relaxes me and helps me do an even better job than I would have. The tip here is to find whatever mindset works for you to manage your anxiety. And at the very end, he mentioned how he ended up doing lots of public speaking. And that was what was ultimately very helpful in terms of him getting completely comfortable with the process. And that's true for anyone I've met who is working on public speaking. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. The big picture takeaway for this is that celebrity speakers are no different than you or me. They get anxious and they cope with that by practicing like crazy, by finding a mindset that helps reduce their anxiety, and they ultimately get over it by doing lots of public speaking. If you want some concrete tips on this, I have 2 related videos on public speaking anxiety, and I have a free PDF download with 7 instant tips to make you a more confident speaker. I'll put links to all of that in the expandable description below the video. Don't forget to tell me your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching. God bless, and I'll see you soon.